Marta Balaga from Variety magazine.
Hello everybody. Dobry den. How are you today? I'm actually very well because Peter is here. He's still here, didn't run away, even though people tried to scare him away yesterday during the screening, as we just talked. Peter, congrats for this award, President's Award, and I hope it won't break like the Coppa Volpi in Venice, at least not so quickly.
Yeah, the Volpe is not made as strong as this one. Maggie has one of these from, I guess, Sherry Baby, maybe? It's still intact, been in her office for 10 years. The Volpe Cup, however, my name has slid off the front of it, so now it's a rather anonymous award, which I'm fine with.
We have to talk to Venice about that. This is not okay.
You know, Willem Dafoe actually warned me that in order for it not to tarnish and fall apart, that I had to do a special spray treatment or something, and I decided not to do that.
I'm glad to hear that Willem Dafoe is taking such good care of his awards. I can just picture him spraying all those drops.
Yeah.
And when I was coming here, I was wondering, why did you choose Shattered Glass to be shown at the festival? And yesterday, when I was watching it again, after so many years, I think I understood, because I was just sitting there thinking, this is about today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a topic that I've been interested in for a while. I mean, in some ways, September 5 is about some of the same ideas, but to me, it's sort of the basis of a functioning society, right, is to all have the same information from which we have opinions about, right? Like, so you could say the guy across the street, he went to a bank, he robbed it, and he had a gun, and he walked out the front and got on a moped and left. Now somebody else said a woman walked into a bank, didn't have a gun, left with nothing, left in a car, and then someone else says there was no bank robbery, it's all fabrication. I mean, how are we to survive? How are we to elect people? How are we to communicate with each other? So to me it is so fundamental, just having a common information. Opinions are different. We all obviously have different opinions, but now the issue with Shattered Glass was that this guy, it was about entertainment, which of course has crept into a lot of journalism, especially journalism that relies on advertising and viewership. So they make everything seem more exciting, frequently embellish. Even I would say 24/7 live coverage of an event is not a good way of getting at the truth, right? The truth requires maybe 24 hours to digest and go, well, our camera was pointed this way, but this was happening over here, and we learn the whole story. So all those issues interest me, and I think were in the movie at the time.
I find it very intriguing when somebody's interested in journalism for selfish reasons. And you also did Mr. Jones, and you played disgraced journalist, another disgraced journalist, Walter Duranty. And I was also thinking about that it's not something that started now, it's something that's been going on for a while, but where does this love for truth or people who are looking for it comes from, do you think?
Well, that's a very personal question, but I would say that I grew up around a lot of fabricators. And I think actually the thing that drew me to acting, because the way that I got into acting was through the Actors Studio. And yeah, method acting, and it's a joke and all that sort of stuff, but like, what I took from method acting was, it's about the truth. It's not about how you wish you would act in a circumstance or you think a person might. It's connecting with, how does someone actually react? How do you actually react when this happens? Not how you wish you would react. And so I think my entire career has been about trying to get at the truth. And I'm telling you, I fail more often than I succeed. But when I do succeed, I find it immensely rewarding. And maybe it has to do with having grown up in an environment where I felt like I was responsible for figuring out what was going on and knowing the truth.
And you also, I think I've heard the story before about when they called you to audition for Shattered Glass. You were on holidays in Costa Rica, so you just came straight with flip-flops.
I'm telling you, it was not just an ordinary trip to Costa Rica. So my friend that I was there with is the actor Evan Moss-Bacharach, who's in The Bear. He plays Cuz. We've been friends for 30 years. And this was like Hunter S. Thompson does Costa Rica at the time. So we were, from day to day, we had no idea where we were going. We were in a four-wheel drive. We were fording through rivers. We were getting stuck. We were not sober. We were meeting random people and going down rabbit holes and into people's houses. I mean, to travel with Evan at that time, we've both cleaned up our acts completely. Basically. Truly. It was really fun. It was an adventure. I mean, he and I, on that trip, decided to go on a hot air balloon ride. And randomly. And we went up, and we were next to Arenal, which is an active volcano. And we came back down in this field, and all these school children came out. And they tied up the hot air balloon, and all day long we were giving kids rides that we would just go up like 100 feet and come back down. And that's what it was like to not have children, be traveling with your best friend, and just be like, today it looks like we're giving kids rides in a hot air balloon, you know? It's different after you have children because you have responsibilities and, your life becomes more important. So yeah, when I showed up for the audition, I was literally in flip-flops, in surfer shorts. I'd been surfing earlier that day, got on the plane. I looked like a total delinquent. And
I'm a little bit disappointed you didn't do it today. I was hoping for a secret.
And to Billy Ray's credit, he saw that I could do it somehow. I mean, I really thought there was no way I was going to get this job, but I did.
But why did you want it so much? Because when you come like that, straight from a plane, it really means that you want it. And why did you want it so much? Because Chuck, he's such a straight guy. He's a good guy. People want to play villains, and we're going to talk about that as well later on. But what did you see in him? Why did you like him so much?
I've never wanted to play the villain. It's other people that want me to play the villain. And when I do play the villain, I pretend I'm not playing the villain. And when I play the good guy, I probably pretend I'm playing the villain. Because I tend to add what is missing. Because when people write things down, they're not thinking, most writers of screenplays are not, they're like, well, this is the guy that the audience has to like, and this is the guy that they have to hate. And when I get it, I'm looking at it like, well, I have to play that person. And there's no such thing as Superman. And there's no such thing as the devil. And so I just add what's missing,
It's true, because when I was rewatching some of those films last week, I was just thinking that this is what you do. You make the good guys bad, you make the bad guys good, and I know it sounds like a Taylor Swift song, but it's just something you know how to do. And especially with those villains. I told you yesterday that I saw Boys Don't Cry only once. Never gonna see it again because it's burned in my brain still. It freaked me out. You freaked me out. I know that you freaked Ebon out when he was shooting your audition tape.
Yeah, Eben, we've been friends for years. I was doing a show called Freak City with Sandy Stern in Toronto. Sandy's right here. He produced it. And Eben came up to my room, and I auditioned on tape. And Eben, he was very sensitive, but we just met, and he suddenly thought that I was not who he thought I was. I will say this about that character. I always look for an in, like a hook for someone. What is the thing that makes me be able to get in there? And I learned that John Lauder had an IQ of like 70-something. I think a normal functioning IQ is above 100. And the guy that he did the crime with had a very high IQ. The guy he did the crime with didn't get killed, didn't go to death row, ratted his friend out, pinned the murder weapon on him. I mean, it was like, and this guy was just kind of hapless. And I started thinking, like, of what it means to, like, really not understand what you're doing, you know? And the terror of, like, a different sexuality in front of you that you've never experienced. This is not a man, it's a woman. And just, like, how scary that would be for someone who had never encountered it. And also someone where masculinity was probably the only thing that he had in his life. I mean, he didn't have anything else. And so he clung to that, and then it was being challenged by this other guy who was not a guy. And I just thought, I tried to really not judge that and just get interested in it, you know.
It's another film that feels very timely, unfortunately.
I hope that people still watch that movie. That's one of the ones, you know, you make these movies sometimes and you go like, have they been carried along by the world? You know, there's new movies that come out all the time, and then only some of them from the past still get watched now and then. And that's one that I think would be worth carrying along. Yeah.
And you said once that you don't mind being manipulated as an actor. And I've heard that Kimberly liked to whisper a little bit inappropriate things in your ear on set. Is that really the case? Is that how she was trying to get you into that role?
Oh yeah. Have you guys ever seen like a documentary about the making of Rosemary's Baby? And you see...
It doesn't sound great.
Yeah. So it's, you know, obviously Cassavetes and Mia Farrow, and Roman like goes, oh, God, he walks over and walks by Mia Farrow and he takes her hand. You can watch this, it's on film. Takes her hand and he moves it. And then he walks over and he has a conversation with Cassavetes about the scene. And he comes back and you're seeing Mia Farrow and she's like, I'm gonna put my hand where I want to put my hand. And then he walks back and he takes her hand and he puts it like that and he calls action. And during the take, she's going, put my hand where I want to put my hand. Well, this is a woman who's pregnant with Satan's baby and her agency is being taken away from her, and I'm sure he did that on purpose, right? Kim Pearson is a little more direct. Like, she walked up to me on day one, she said a couple of things. One of them was, God, you are such a pussy. I thought I'd hired a man. And I'm like in character as John Lauder, who only has his masculinity, his any kind of power in the world. And I was like, okay. The other thing she told me was, she said, I thought I'd cast someone in the video, it looked like you had cheekbones. You know, all these things that just made me like insecure and angry, and it was like kind of constant. And I did not have trouble accessing a lot of the feelings in that movie at that point. So you have to be very good at it if you're going to manipulate an actor, to me. I mean, there's ways of manipulating an actor that are just pointless, you know? Or if they're already doing it, you don't have to do it, right? Like, the person's already giving the performance. There's no... I heard a director say to an actress once, this is not a good form of manipulation. She said, how was that taken? And he said, you look like an actor trying to win an award. No, well, you might as well go home. That's like end of everything. So, you know, you have to be skilled. It's not actor-director relationships aren't like relationships we have in life. They don't have to be like, you know, we're going to marry each other or be friends. It's the case with Michel Franco. We are friends.
Yeah, he came here just to make sure that we only talk nice things.
That I don't say anything.
We will, Michel, don't you worry. But I'm still shocked that you stayed after the line about cheekbones. I would go. That would be enough.
I sucked in my cheeks after that.
But But something you just said, that some films stay, some films are known. And what I like about those conversations is that we always get to talk about films that are not that known. And for some reason, people still love them. And this is the dying goal.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what's happening today, but all those films that we discussed, they are timely. And especially the way, just for people who might want to discover it afterwards, it is about filmmaking. It is about many things, but it's also about filmmaking. And there's this line that people don't go to cinema to feel bad or to learn anything.
Yeah, that's what Campbell's. I play a screenwriter in it, and I've written like a great screenplay. And he plays this producer, and he goes, the thing is, people don't go to the movies to feel bad or learn anything. And I've thought about that a lot. And sometimes I think, like when I'll read a script, I'll be like, this is great. We shouldn't count on American distribution. Because especially Americans don't go to the movies to feel bad or learn anything. The other thing that was interesting about that movie was, the euthanasia aspect of the movie. I helped my lover die in it. It was played by Bill Camp, who's a wonderful, wonderful actor. And I don't know, I think that film for me, the reason I like it has to do with the experience I had making it, because it was before I had children, and I went so deeply into a character that was so far away from me. I mean, like, when I read it, part of the reason I wanted to do it was because I couldn't imagine playing it, And I actually have not seen the film since I saw it at Sundance. This is all my memory of the film. So it was the same thing with Shattered Glass. I don't rewatch things that I do. Sometimes I never watch things that I do because I'm sort of protecting my point of view, my experience. What people do with that is not my job. I can tell from audiences if what I was putting out got picked up. That's interesting to me. I'm interested in what people have to say about it, but for me to watch it is, I watched Memory a couple of times actually, because it was very interesting to see the difference between what I thought I was doing and what happened. They were different,
There is a scene in The Dying Goal when your character thinks that he's actually talking to his dead lover. I don't know if he believes it, if he wants to believe it, but it just happens for him. And it's just your face for a bit. It's all this pain. I always get uncomfortable when I see scenes like this because there is nothing to hide behind. It's just you and the camera. Do you like those scenes? Do you like to be that vulnerable?
I get a lot of anxiety before doing some scenes, and it's not like I've decided what I'm going to do. I don't say I'm going to do this in the scene, but there'll be some scenes where I know something, I'm going to be talking to my dead lover. That's a big thing to try to imagine doing. And I will, it's funny, even like talking about it, I can like feel the feelings of it, So it's almost like I feel unhinged a little bit, like my hands are probably shaking. And then the camera focuses me, calms me. The camera actually helps me remember my lines usually. And when I went to go do it, Bobby Bukowski, who was the DP on that movie, he was probably the guy that I thought of as being my lover. He's a gay man who's an incredible guy. And he would greet me every day with, "Good morning, homo." And I just adored him, And so I knew when I was looking at the camera that his eye was on the other side of the camera. So I'm like, it's very hard to play into the lens because you're constantly reminded that you're being filmed, right? Like, actors don't like that. You want to, the way that we cope with the fact that we're being filmed is to have another actor there that you can create a reality that's not including the camera. So I could just see right in there and see Bobby, you know, and it was very, very, very powerful. And I also told the director on a couple of scenes like that, Craig, I said, make sure it is all set up perfectly. Because that feeling that I'm talking about of about to give birth, kind of, only happens for the first couple of takes. So I said, we're going to do this in one take, and we did.
It's very touching and strange what you do in this film. And I could say the same thing about memory. Michelle, if you want, you can join us for this conversation. I remember seeing this film for the first time and just almost not wanting to watch it because it was so sad and so funny and so strange again. You seem very proud of this role. I remember when you were picking up the award in Venice, you talked about your uncle. It felt personal. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, my uncle had CTE, which is plaque on the brain from playing. He was a center in football, American football. The center is the one who gets hit every play, and you're in a very vulnerable position, right? You're like this, and then you go like that to give it to the quarterback, and then you go forward, and someone hits you on the head. So he did that, and then he boxed. He boxed Golden Gloves, and then he was a fireman. So he started exhibiting signs of dementia in his 40s, actually, in his late 40s. And, you know, when you're around somebody who's first going through something like that, like, we were all like, got hit on the head too many times, you know, it's like a joke. It's only when they get diagnosed that everybody suddenly goes, oh, and you start treating the same symptoms like they're dire. It's the same guy with the same symptoms. We now know what it's going to do. It's going to go downhill. But we started kind of restricting his behavior a lot. And there was no reason to, right? Like, he's the same guy as he was yesterday. Now they just call it dementia. Yeah, we know where it's going, but today he's the same guy as he was yesterday. He drove the car yesterday. He can drive the car today. So when I got it, I was very interested in, like, what the character could do more than what the character couldn't do. I also wanted to play him as someone who was really ready to live, you know, and not spending a lot of time thinking about dying, you know. That was for my brother to think about in the film. So, and Michelle was really great, you know, like, the thing with Michelle was, I mean, I don't know if that was in the script or not, but I probably was. But he allows, if you look like you have a point of view and you're after it, Michelle's going to let you do it. You know, there are not many people that are willing to let go of the reins as much as he is.
And whenever I interview actors, very often they talk about research. If somebody's playing a firefighter, they're going to go hang with firefighters. But I was always thinking, isn't it a little bit strange, especially if you play somebody who's sick, for example, or who's suffering? How do you tell them, I would like to just look
Study
at you for
your
a
disease. Show me some dementia. What's going on in your dementia life? Yeah, that's why I'm not a big... People want to hear actors talk about research because it's a way of describing something that's kind of difficult to describe. The way that I do research is like I walk around and daydream. I mean, mostly. And it's mostly got to do with, you know, I read the script a lot. I probably read the script before I'm about to do something like once a week. When I'm filming it, I don't read the script at all. But it's not that important to me. You know, like I was saying, I'm about to play a brain surgeon, and I've gotten really into doing the research on brain surgery, mostly because it's really interesting to go see someone get their brain operated on, and I have access. And so it's like, I don't know how important that is for the role, that I look like I know how to operate on a brain. I mean, that's not going to be in the movie. His attitude toward other people, does it need to be the same as this surgeon's attitude toward other people? Every surgeon's different, just like every person's different. You know, people talk about like a surgeon's attitude toward the patient. Oh, they're very cold. I saw a patient, and his surgeon playing chess together before a surgery. So, like, not every one of them is cold. I can decide what I want to do. And I don't know, I think I only do research if it sounds like it's going to be fun. Otherwise, I don't bother with it. You know?
But this is another film where I think this empathy that you seem to have for characters who are struggling comes into place. I know that you have a religious background. I do too, which is why I'm curious about it. Do you think that this allows you maybe to see good and evil in all these characters and don't find it strange? Was there ever a case where you just thought, this is a little bit too far, I can't find?
Totally. There's one role that I passed on because of the character, and it was a pedophile. I can't do that. Partly because you're acting children, and I can't. I don't want to think about that around children. So that's something I won't do. But I'll do almost anything else. You know, the thing I'll say about being raised Catholic, and I'm a Catholic that is pro-choice. I'm a Catholic that believes you can be any sexuality you want to be. So I'm probably excommunicated at this point. But
now you will be. Now you will be.
The part of it that really I think has to do with acting the most, yeah, there's, you know, some of the obvious things you were just talking about, but like when I would get communion, sometimes I would take it home because in my mind, it was the body of Christ. I made it the body of Christ. Who wouldn't want to take the body of Christ home? Why just eat it right away, right? So I would take it home, and I would really take it in my room, like, oh my God, you know? And I think that has a lot to do with acting. I think like the parts of Catholicism that are like belief that is, it's somehow more than other religions to me. My wife is Jewish, and like the thing I like about Judaism is it's like practical and a dialectic and communal, and there's a part of Catholicism that is a solo journey. It's like when we all kneel and pray after we get communion. You could do it by yourself. You know, it's like it's only you. And I guess that's the aspect that's similar, you know. I found it very hard a couple of times being an altar boy. Like, this is a funny story. I was an altar boy once, and so I would ding the bell during, you know, and a priest once messed up and said, Christ, this sack over is pacified, therefore let us feed the beast. And I was like, I'm leaving. You know, like because I really believed that like something had taken over this guy. We're not safe anymore. You know? So now I think I'm more of like, I ask all the same questions that everybody else asks, and I don't have any answers. Like, what happens when you die? What happened when you were born? I have no clue anymore. My belief system is shattered, I think, by just a lifetime of witnessing terrible things happen to people. You know?
Oh, those funny stories from the church. We all have a couple of those. Things I've seen, trust me.
Yeah.
But you mentioned your wife, and of course we have to talk about it a little bit. Maggie Gyllenhaal. The Lost Daughter was such a lovely film and such a big discovery for so many people, I think, who didn't know what to expect or who didn't want to expect anything. Let's face it. And your character, this is another one of those guys where you think he could be controversial or he could be tricky, but he is, again, very honest and very seductive. How was it to play, because this is the kind of relationship that I guess is frowned upon today a little bit, maybe considered a little bit inappropriate, but you made it believable and you made it sweet also.
I mean, what is inappropriate? You know, to me,
nothing in Czech Republic.
Yeah, to me, that is a consensual relationship and one where both people are being totally honest with each other. I have a problem with kind of the way she is with her children, you know, on the phone in that scene. I thought that guy was straight as an arrow. I don't have any problem with him. Yet many people come up to me and they say, what an asshole, what a creepy dude. Like, actually, in the TV show I did with my brother-in-law, to me that guy is also just a guy who lives by himself with his cat and is trying to do a good job, you know, under impossible circumstances. There's some characters that I am very protective over, and definitely the one in my wife's movie. I mean, for me, it was just really nice to be the object of desire. You know, I don't get to be that all the time. And the fact that my wife cast me in a role that I think, you know, if a man makes the movie, then that part's a woman, and she's gorgeous and charming and smart, and I got to be all those things. You know, that to me it was fantastic. And it was also only really, you know, like I just did another film with my wife, The Bride, and when my wife directs, because we have children, I can't play a big role in the movie. We've got a 13-year-old, and somebody's got to be with the kid. So what was nice about that part in The Lost Daughter was we were on Spetses, on this island. It's during COVID. We didn't have to wear masks. We're all quarantined for 14 days, and then we could just hang out. And I hung out with my children all morning. They would go to school over Zoom in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. And then Maggie would always schedule my acting for after that. I only had a couple of days of acting, and maybe I had like 5 days of acting in the movie. And the rest of the time I just got to like go to set and support them and, you know, hang out. It was wonderful.
What should we expect from The Bride? It sounds like a very intriguing story. Is it set in the 30s? Do I remember it right? Mm-hmm.
It's set in the 30s. But it's like also not set in the 30s. I mean, it's a love story. It's like an ecstatic love story between two monsters. It's about the monster in all of us, I suppose. And I think it will... It's funny. We had an acting teacher named Penny Allen, who is the biggest influence in my life, acting, the biggest influence in my wife's life, Holly Hunter's life, Nicole Kidman's life, Matthew McConaughey's life, Jake's life. She was the acting teacher. She passed away. And she told my wife one time, she said, you haven't, you know, when she was an actress, she said, you haven't achieved your full potential. And when you do, people are going to stand up and yell, help! And I think that's what's going to happen when people watch this movie. I think it's provocative, dangerous, revolutionary, sexy, punk, and I'm sure some people are going to have strong reactions to it. But I think it's an incredibly brave movie. I just can't even believe that it was allowed to be made on some level. So I can't wait to see people's reaction with that movie. No one is going to be like, oh yeah, it's nice. It's not that kind of movie.
Strong reactions are the best. I think Lars von Trier gets very upset if nobody leaves the cinema. So there you go.
I had many Zooms with Lars von Trier about doing a movie with him once, and he's someone that I just think is, look, even when it's not his best movie, it's better than most people's movie. You know, I mean, he's insanely talented. But the movie that I was talking to him about doing, when I read it, parts of it made me want to like throw up. and it was revolting. And yet I was like, I'm in, if you want me. He didn't. He thought I wasn't American enough because of my last name, I think.
Which one was that? The film that you
Matt
discussed?
Dillon did it. Yeah.
The house that Jack built. Okay.
Yeah, which is, if you've seen it, definitely.
Revolting
you throw
is
up.
one
Yeah.
word to do it. I have to say that I can't imagine working with my husband. It would end badly, violently, and suddenly. And you keep on doing it, and you seem to really enjoy it. I notice the way you talk about each other. You also talk about each other as actors, as artists, not just about you as partners. Was it always like that, or did you have to kind of figure out a way to do
No,
it?
Maggie and I met like at a dinner. I didn't know she was an actress. Secretary had not come out. And she was just this like bright woman who was so interesting. We talked all the way through that night at her manager's house. Didn't wake up, sat on a bench outside. In the morning, her manager woke up. I was like, you guys are still going? We went shopping with her manager, to have like a safe person between the two of us. Went through all of that day and then had coffee at the end of the day. And I was like, not only have I fallen in love, but this is like my artistic partner. And even if our names are not on things that the other person has done, the other person's, fingerprint is on it. And I would not be the actor I am without my wife. And I think also it's from doing theater together. We've done a fair amount of theater together. And sort of the thing about theater is because when you're acting in a film, there's less exploration, right? You like do a scene once and maybe do it 20 times, but it's only on that day. Play, you just keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And I found someone who was abstract and random like me and as unsettled as I am and never lands on something and keeps it. Like, even if I do something and it works, I go, well, I did that and it worked. Let's try something that doesn't work. Let's keep trying something else. Like, I have a kind of restless mind, and so does my wife. I think that's where we're similar.
And I'm glad you mentioned theatre because that's how it all started for you, right? You were doing a play, Tim Robbins came to see you specifically, and that's how you got Dead Man Walking.
Yeah.
Why was he there? Is it a rude question to ask? Because you were completely unknown at that point.
Well, the playwright was famous and had just won a Pulitzer Prize. His name was Horton Foote. And actually, Horton Foote started my career. I'd never had a job, and I went into an audition, and Horton Foote actually started Robert Duvall's career, Matthew Broderick's career, a number of people. And I walked into the audition with Horton, and it was way up high in a building in New York, and I hadn't been, as a kid I'd gone to New York, but it was like a different part of New York. I was like in an office building up high, and I went over to the window, and I was looking out the window for a while, and he said, "Where are you from?" And I was like the South and Midwest. And he was like, "Oh, okay." He started talking to me, and I went down, sat in the chair to read for the part, and he goes, "You have the part. Go ahead and read it." And I was like, amazing. So I read the part. I still had the part. And so he was sort of famous. I mean, he was very famous, right? He wrote Trip to Bountiful. He wrote a screenplay for To Kill a Mockingbird, which he, I think, won an Academy Award for. He was friends with Harper Lee, who I also met through him. And Tim, I think, was just going to see the play, from what I understand. And the funny thing is, I would get killed in that play in the third act. And so what I like to do is go up to the light booth and watch everyone's reaction to hearing the news of me dying. It made me feel good to watch them cry. And they cared about me. And I remember looking down and I saw Tim and Susan sitting there. And I was like, oh shit, amazing. And he came up afterwards and said, "Would you like to audition for this movie I'm doing?" I said, "Yeah." I went and it was my first audition for any movie. So I had this feeling of